Okay, so welcome everyone. I hope that you all can hear me well now. And just double checking with you all if you can hear me. Yes.
بله بله من که میشنوم خیلی خوب.
بله منم میشنوم. خیلی عالی صداتون.
Okay, fine, thank you. So I stopped the recording and again I recorded for another one. If there is okay, perfect. So welcome everyone. Today is September 19th, 2024, and this is the workshop section. There a workshop about tips for handwriting. So the first thing before we move forward is that we need to set out the stage and our expectation about what we mean when we say good handwriting. When it comes to the term of handwriting, in fact, it means that we are expecting our children to be literal, to know the alphabet, to have good phonological awareness, and also we are gonna expect them to be able to write the words out of memory. So most of the time we are thinking that the child who is supposed to have a good handwriting at least has to be able to write and know the letters and the meaning of the words. So it starts from the age of 6 normally. And what do you expect about the pace or the
آفرین پسرم خیلی قشنگ داشت.
So that you are going to expect about each age is the one that I'm showing to you, okay? For children at the age of 6 or first grade, on average, we expect around 3.5 words to be written in a minute. So when we say word, we mean 2-letter, 3-letter, or maximum 4-letter words. And when we mention writing, it means that the quality of that handwriting is in a way that any person can read it somehow, or can at least guess what that word is. So if the handwriting is so illegible that only mom, dad, or a specific teacher who knows the child can read, but others cannot understand what is written, that word is not accepted. But around 3.5 words in a minute is expected to be written by a child at the age of 6. And same thing, once we talk about when it reaches to the age of 11, we are going to expect 12 words per minute to be written by a child. It means that in a minute, the child should write 12 words, or every 5 seconds, a new word should be written by a child at the age of 11. So you can see, you can set the stage to see how much you can expect from your own child. It is about handwriting pace. The next thing that you need to know before we jump into the practical points is about the rules that are called 5P. 5P rules are about the requirement of having a good handwriting. So there are 5 things. We should check our posture at the desk before starting to write. We should check the pencil or the writing material, whether it is a pencil or marker or anything, or brush or anything. We should check the pencil. We should have a good, appropriate paper that should be put on the surface with a correct alignment, about 45 degrees toward the dominant hand. So if you are right-handed, turn it toward the dominant hand. And pressure means how much pressure your child going to apply when holding a pencil and then pushing it down to the paper. And lastly, pressure for the surface behind, now underneath the paper, that is very important and help the child to have a better handwriting. So there are 5 P rules that we need to pay attention to these 5 things before starting to have a good handwriting. And also there's another rule which is called 5S rules, that how we can determine that we can have a good handwriting in English is obeying and complying these 5S in the writing. Shape of the writing means that the child, when the child is writing a letter, the shape of the letter should resemble enough with the picture of that letter. So, for example, if a child is writing letter N, let's say uppercase N, but she writes it in a kind of very awkward way that you cannot differentiate it from letter L or letter V. In fact, that child hasn't obeyed the rule of shape. Slope is that if the child is able to pull the stroke or the tail enough so that she can or he can have a good and legible writing, like kind of writing R, K, H, and N, Q, okay? How much the child gives angle to the letter. When writing, if you start from the correct point of the paper and we can move forward to the next thing is the one side that is kind of relevant to slope as well. That is about if the sizes of the letters are kind of relatively closer to each other, that a child writes, for example, B, they can write the letter B in a 2 centimeter by 2 centimeter box, but she cannot write letter K in a 2 by 2 box. And for letter K, she needs bigger space or room to write it. So if the sizes are close to each other, make it more legible. Also, it's about spacing that we have learned that between each letter, there should be a little O, and between each word, there should be a big O space. So it's a very important rule that children learn how to write the letter with a kind of little gap between each letter so that they don't come into each other and they can be legible and readable. And lastly, if the letter or the word are sitting on the line or not. For this 5S rule, and specifically for the last rule, we can use some sheets that have 3 lines for each line. So 3 lines specifying that, for example, for letter N, the curve of letter N at the top for lowercase letter n, the curve of letter n is fitting or hitting the second line, but the stroke of letter H, the top part of letter H is striking the first letter, the first line of these 3 lines. So 1, 2, 3 line, letter H, which is taller, is hitting the first line, second line, crossing the second line, and sitting or standing on the third line. But for letter N, which is going up until the second line and turning back down. Okay, so it's about sitting on the line and how having some kind of 3-line paper help children obey these rules about shape, spacing, and sitting on the line properly. So knowing these three factors give us some peace of mind about what we are going to expect to try and how we can make our children readier for that. Also, in the previous session, we mentioned about multidisciplinary approach, that just behind a good handwriting, there are several factors. There are several factors about the posture, crossing the midline of body, bilateral integrity, oculomotor control, fine motor, manual dexterity, eye-hand coordination, visual memory, visual closure, visual attention, and also ability to have a good grasp of pencil. And also we mentioned a few commercially available materials or tools to be bought, that you can buy, and then they can help you out during the handwriting test. So we have mentioned about these things. I'm not going to expand them again. If you are interested into it, you can check the former workshop in our YouTube channel. But once we are going to move forward, about 15 rules, 15 tips that I have prepared for today, we can talk about them. So tip number 1 is about posture exercises. Posture exercises give us a good stabilizers ability, that the shoulder stabilizers help us have a better writing skill, and I can name a few of them right now. So bridge core is the top one that you can see. You can ask your child to hold this position and then gradually increase her record. Wheelbarrow is this one that you are going to ask your child to hold the position as a wheelbarrow, and then standing or bearing the weight on the hand, bearing the weight on the shoulder here in this area, and ultimately controlling her with balance on the kind of gym bar like that. It's a very hard activity. For adult people, similar thing resembles plank. Yes, the ones who have done plank know how hard it is. And the third one is supine flexion, or we can say it has boat position, in which the child is holding a position that resembles boat. Specifically, if we ask the child to hold the head off and above, just lift the head up so that the head is not laying on the floor, and then head and the legs should be raised, and the child is supposed to hold two items in hand, making sure that two ends of the body or holding a curve like a boat. Yeah, it is supine flexion, very, very great exercise for increasing the tonicity of the core trunk, and it helps the child have a better posture upon sitting at the table, and ensuring that one of the 5 P rule is well maintained. For prone extension exercise, which is the lower picture, it is the position of Superman. That is called Superman position. So in order not to be gender specific thing, Superwoman or Superman position. And if there is a kind of flying character who is flying in the sky, holding a hand apart and then moving forward in the sky, so both legs and both hands should not be on the floor, and holding this posture for as high as 25 seconds. So many of these postures or positions should be held between 25 to 35 seconds, depending on the age of the child. We normally expect a child at the age of 6 to be able to hold it for around 30 seconds. And if a child's core trunk is too weak to hold it for 15 seconds or so, it means that the posture is too poor, and that posture might affect handwriting as well. So tip number 1 is working on posture. Tip number 2, however, is about paying attention to posture during the task. That is mentioning that you should double check to see if the bottom is at the back of the chair, if the knees are at right angles, if the feet are flat on the floor, If the chair is well pulled in, pulled in underneath the desk, if head and trunk are leaning slightly forward, not laying back, but slightly forward, if the hands are forward resting on the table, and if the elbow is fairly close to the body, not far like that, okay? And if the non-writing hand is supporting the paper, holding the paper is on the desk, and if the head is not too close to the paper, too far from the table, okay? They are very important for a good posture during the task. So as you see, many of them are related to angle or biomechanics of the body limbs, and it's related to the position of limbs. Many of them are related to ergonomy of the used material, of the material being used, like kind of the desk, the size of the desk, the height of the desk. There are many things like this that are important, but whenever you are using some desk or chair, make sure that you can give these position or this posture or position of the limb to your child upon writing task, okay? So if there is a kind of high stool that your child is supposed to sit at the, let's say, your kitchen island, and there's a higher stool so that the child's feet are not resting on the floor, that position has some issue and might negatively impact the quality of handwriting. Yeah. So next thing that we are gonna move forward is about environmental factors that I just simply ask you to pay attention to a few of them, like lighting. Many of the rooms of the children are overly lighted or very dimmed. We need to have a kind of concentrated light that like a kind of study lamp that just shed a very focused light on the desk, letting the child to pay attention to the details. Also, there is a kind of desk and surface consideration related to that. Look at this table or desk that are height adjustable. So once you buy such stuff like that, you can adjust the height level of the desk and also the chair so that you can make sure you are maintaining the correct position of the body, limbs for the child. Also paying attention to the chair and cushion. Sometimes some children prefer some wobbly coach and they are helping them having better attention. Sometimes children prefer their chair to be like a kind of ball that gradually by going up and down, they can pay better attention. Sometimes they need some rigid chair. You can get consultation from your own OT or any expert in this area to ask about what are the best materials for seating. Some children prefer a little fidgeting to maintain their attention. But in general, what we need to do is to make sure that the seat is not going to move too much. So we strongly recommend not to use swivel chairs for children lower than the age of 7 or 8, because they might keep swiveling, then it's getting it makes it harder for them to pay attention or concentrate on the task. Sometimes even we see that the environmental background, the foreground of the desk is too busy, and also sometimes the room is too noisy. So there are the things that are distracting and then might lower the quality of handwriting as well. Next thing is about hand warm-up. So we are going to dive into practical tips about hand and handwriting. So hand warm-up is one of them that consists of many things that you can do, like working with the Play-Doh, working with the putty, working with the clay and pottery thing, working with elastic bands, and doing some activities like overhead twisting exercises and shaking hand when a music is being played and stop shaking hands when the music is off. Finger to finger, finger to finger, and opposition's task. And finger identification, show number 1, show number 2, show number 3, show number 4. They are the things that the child can practice. Finger push. Also, attaching two hands to each other and squeezing or rolling something or squeezing some sponge or many other activities that children can do to make sure that their hands are awake. In fact, we are giving some awakening exercises to the hands so that the child feels his hand. Once the child feels his hand, in fact, the child has gained better awareness about the body and the hand in the specific, and then it helps the child have a better understanding about the position of the pencil in his hand. That's why it is a very important task, and many of the children at home might struggle with this missing part of the exercise. The family immediately, the client, the parents immediately ask the child to start writing without these hand exercises, and it's making it much harder for the child to feel the hand. So bad handwriting, poor experience of satisfaction, poor experience of doesn't have good satisfaction about the activity or quality of it. So we're drawing it. Next thing is about grabbing task, which is once you hang many items, many light items from the ceiling, and then you are going to ask your child to grabbing them when they are swinging, or asking the child to hit them with a bat when they are swinging, or asking your child to grab a Lego from your hand. That imagine that there is a Lego that you are keep turning it and moving its direction, and the child is supposed to catch it, to grab it, or asking the child to catch a ball with two hands or one hand when you are throwing it or bouncing it toward him. And also, the last part, which is about grabbing task, is that you make some medium-sized ball deflated a little, and then you ask your child to pick up the medium-sized ball with one hand to improve the spherical grasp of the child, and then grabbing task get better by this activity. Okay, so next one is about what we talk about when we talk about grasp and dexterity exercises. There are different terms about grasp and dexterity, and they are the most convenient, most common grasp and grip that you can see. Some of them are related to power-based grasp, some of them are related to precision that are called pinch, three-part pinch, key pinch, lumbrical pinch. Is the thing that each model of the hand manipulation is have its own characteristic. For example, for cylindrical grasp, you will see that the thumb is at the position of the palmar page, and then by holding it like that, as if you're holding a cup or a bottle or a screwdriver, it's called cylindrical. It's good for holding some cylindrical shape in general. For hookting, the thumb is not involved, and as if you are carrying a bag or holding a cup, holding a mug, in fact. And also, spherical grasp is related to holding a ball-shaped stuff in your hand, as you see. Also, there are some other things like pinch, which is key pinch, two-part pinch, three-part pinch, and lumbrical grasp, that many of them you can activate and try and practice it at home with regular Legos that you can use or play with. You can give a kind of ear swab to the child and ask him to erase the whiteboard by. Or you can also ask your child to, let's say, for example, holding a toothbrush and clean some specific area in your bathroom that you previously have made a mess on, kind of splash some watercolor spot on that, and you are giving a toothbrush to a child to just rub it and clean it up. Okay, so there are the things that you can practice at home, even sorting the beans from each other by two-part pinch, and several other activities or exercises related to grasp and dexterity exercises. Also, here we have pinch improvement exercise that are like make a hole that you give the pencil to the child and give the phone to him as well, and you ask the child, keep the pencil tightly in hand and keep pushing the tip of the pencil to the foam to make a hole in the foam. By doing so, you are improving the pinch strength, the ability of the child to hold the pencil strongly enough so that he can make a hole by pushing the tip of pencil to the foam or sponge. Or work with tweezer. This is with lots of activities that are kind of picking up some pom-pom or bean or any Legos with a tweezer and transferring it from some location to the other one, lacing the beads that you can see here as well, kind of stand play box, flicking the pom-pom, which is great activity. And also there's some fun activity that I mentioned here, which is about helping the doll to get rid of the tape. And it's like that you can use some duct tape and just wrap it all around the doll, and then make a sound out of the doll that, please help me, please let me be free, please make me free. And then your child is supposed to use his finger and remove the tape or straps or stripes or remove all these yarn that are fastening around that doll to just let the doll get out of this hassle. By doing so, in fact, you are empowering the child's ability for use of hand in a proper way and a meaningful way. And also you are working on the visual and spatial perception as well. So next thing is about functional pencil grasp. As you see here, what we can say is about how to have a good pencil grasp. So pencil grasp tasks are a little more specific compared to general grasp or general fine motor task, okay? It's about how to hold the pencil in hand. And one of the best things that we can do is to make sure, well, if we know about the accepted types of pencil grasp that are called functional. So you need to know the difference between functional grasp and other methods. For many different ways, children learn how to hold a pencil in hand. For example, a child that has a palmar grasp hold the pencil or marker in this way and can just scribble with that. But this way of holding the pencil is not functional. You know why? Because the balance between mobility and the stability of holding the pencil is not appropriate. In fact, some of the models of pencil grasp are too good for stability, but too bad for mobility, or vice versa. Too good for mobility, but very poor at stability. It means that sometimes children hold the pencil too firmly that cannot move it within the fingers, so cannot have a good control over drawing time or writing time, and cannot draw the details of the shape like that. And sometimes the child has held the pencil too loosely, too loose in a way that it is moving in between the fingers, and then the child cannot push it enough on the paper. So rule number 4, which was about pressure, is going to be dismissed here. And once the child cannot have a good pressure on the paper with the pencil, then we cannot have a kind of good handwriting with an adequate level of contrast between the background and what the child has written, as if the writing is very, very faded, or as if the child had had lack of self-confidence, that was very shyly has written something which are not legible at all. So you will see that there are some functional ways of holding, and you will see that many of them at the top that are showing like kind of digital pronate graph, Palmar graph, digital graph. Many of them are not acceptable, but the lower one, which are functional, are the 3 models of handwriting of pencil graph that are appropriate. Yes, don't get surprised. Even modified 3-part graph that you see here is an accepted version here, because it gives a fair balance between mobility and stability. Even though it's a kind of rare method of holding pencil in hand, but practice it at home and you will not get regret of that. It's a very great and lovely way of writing. For some people, because of the length of their fingers or the position of their thumb, even it is easier for them to handle the pencil in this way. And since there is a kind of fair balance between mobility and stability, it is an accepted and functional way of pencil grasp. But the majority of people hold it in a kind of dynamic 3-part graph, this one. So what we do to improve this task is that with a marker, which could be a little thicker, or with a pencil, doesn't matter, we hold the pencil down on the desk. Again, we pick it up from the desk. We scribble on the paper, and then we place it back on the desk. It's a kind of activity that the child needs to learn how to pick up the pencil, how to scribble, how to put it back. After several times of doing so, the child learned how to move the pencil in hand to fit it in the hand and finger to hold a good position of the dynamic graph as well. As a way of illustration or example, just imagine that you are invited to a kind of Japanese restaurant, and you are gonna have some sushi, and it's your first experience of using a chopstick, and you are supposed to hold the chopstick with your hand and then pick up a sushi, and then kind of merge it with kind of, let's say, with a soy or something, and then have it. And then you are fully distressed about how to properly hold the chopstick in your hand, so that there's a fair balance of stability and mobility. Because if you push too firmly, maybe sushi just flies away out of that and then get kind of a squeeze and change the shape. And then if it is too loose, maybe it drops off your chopsticks. So the same thing applies to how you are going to practice holding the pencil as well. Keep placing it on the desk. Again, keep asking the child to pick it up, hold it in hand, scribble, and place it back. So it's a very simple task, and it seems that it is easy, but the child gradually learns how to pick it in the proper way. Some advice is that for some children, once you pull around some kind of tape or color tape around this part of the pencil, around the closer part of the pencil that you are going to expect your child to put the finger around that, your child can localize and detect the place, the area of holding the pencil more easily, and you can facilitate the process of pencil grasp for this child as well. But it takes time, and practicing functional pencil grasp needs immediate feedback, instant feedback in a very gentle way, but instant and immediate feedback so that the child doesn't exercise or practice the wrong method for several times. Because it's a matter of motor learning that for wrong pattern, it should be provided, we should provide kind of immediate feedback to minimize the risk of wrong pattern of learning or substitution of those patterns to the correct one. So, it's about pencil grasp. Next thing that we can talk about is about scribbling. So scribbling and doodling are fun tasks. You see many different ways of scribbling here. You see, asking the child to put dot on a paper, and then asking your child to put vertical line, and horizontal, and oblique, and curved, and zigzag, zigzag vertical, zigzag horizontal, oblique. You see, there are several methods of aggregation and scribbling and doodling that we can expect our children to do them. But for unplanned scribbling that is related for the age of 15 months to 2.5, the child pronated and palmar grasp like this way of holding the pencil, or this way of holding the pencil, that are not functional, but the child kept holding the pencil like this, and we don't call it functional grasp because of the lack of stability, and the child kept doing that. It is unplanned scribbling. But once we are going to expect the child to have a better control, like kind of drawing or scribbling inside a designated area, inside a box, scribbling so that it doesn't cancel any other surrounding shapes. Just imagine that you have drawn last 5, 6, 7 shapes on a whiteboard, and you're asking your child to scribble and cancel one of the shapes by scribbling, but you're going to ask your child not to cancel any other shapes that are close by. So the child needs to learn to have a more controlled scribbling, and it is called orderly scribbling, that you can see the patterns here. They are all orderly scribbling. Maybe this one only could be unplanned, but even this one, number 16, if that you have asked the child to write it inside a box, it is a planned one. If it is a kind of random one, it is an unplanned one. It could be an unplanned one. Number 16, number 18, even number 9. That could be unplanned, but if it is in a designated area, it is planned. Yeah. The difference is the matter of control. That needs better eye-hand coordination and better mobility and stability of the hand grasp upon writing task. So it's that. Next thing is about, let's see. Next thing is about the activity related to tracing. So tracing, which is number 10 here, most of the time is the first step that families start writing tasks with. So you see, the families or practitioners or caregivers that right away start from tracing and have missed postural exercises, have missed paying attention to the correct position of body space, have missed hand warm-up, have missed lots of scribbling and grasping patterns, have missed lots of fine motor tasks, and immediately right away they want to start writing tasks, and then they start with tracing, it seems that they have made a big shortcut, and it's no surprise that the child quality or function, the quality of the child's performance doesn't speed up easily because the underlying level or the hierarchy is not well maintained. So once you are about to use tracing tasks, pay attention to these things. Sometimes I feel that children need some road to draw inside it. Just pay attention to the road between these two cars in the lower picture here. But sometimes I feel that children need three-dimensional road, like kind of I make a line worm or snake with a Play-Doh and stick it to the paper and make a road with that. And I'm going to ask the child to draw a line between these two snakes in a road. Do not cross the edge. But since the road has three-dimensional edge, it is easier for a child to keep the tip of pencil or marker inside the shape and keep practicing it more easily with more chance of success. The other thing about practicing finger painting to minimize the chance of the lack of control, and then just working on the eye-hand coordination in a way that the child, just make the fingertip, kind of coloring, and then use that painting to draw inside a maze, or using kind of mazes or roads, and then sometimes drawing, sticking some colorful tape on the desk or wall or floor or paper, and ask the child to draw on the tape, do not get out of the tape. So the tape width could be like kind of 1.5 centimeter, and it is easier for a child to do that, specifically when the tape is colorful. The contrast between the color of the tape and the background, which is normally white, gives a better idea about how to track it, how to trace it more easily. Also, there are some sheets that I have found that have some kind of dotted pattern, and if there's a kind of braille pattern that you touch, it has a texture of the dots. And it is very easier for a child to trace there because automatically the tip of the marker falls inside those simple tiny holes on the paper, and it is making it much easier for a child to have a successful tracing. In fact, it is compensating lack of control or lack of control of the eye-hand coordination when doing that. And also asking the child to highlight a specific word is going to help tracing. But it's the kind of fun way. Just imagine that you give a book to the child and say that whenever you hear the word, for example, D-T-H-E, just highlight it. And the child is supposed to highlight 10 word D, and then there is a kind of surprise or reward or fun or dance or music right after that 10 highlighting. There are some ideas that you can utilize at home. For coloring part, also, we can do it with this strategy that completing a small uncolored area. Do not give a big piece of sheet, then give it in a way that you are supposed to color all of them from square one. It's taking a lot of time, and children do not have enough working tolerance to sit at a big project of coloring when they are too young. But you just almost finish up coloring something, and you just have your child watch you when you are doing that and you are enjoying doing this. and then you just leave a very, very small area on the purple area, imagine, and give a purple and say, okay, now you finish this part. Okay, now you finish the green part. So maybe the square of 2 by 2, 3 by 3 maximum that you are going to ask your child to finish coloring project. As if the child feels, now that I have finished it, as if I have done the whole of that. So, and in order to facilitate the coloring process, you can start from watercolor, that with a single touch of the watercolor brush, you can color a big area, and then pastel that gives a very fairly good control, and it's very soft, and the child feels control on that. Then colorful marker, then fine marker, then pencil. So it's the order or sequence that you can gradually work on when practicing on coloring. Next thing, which is a very great way to work on the 5S rules. Do you remember the 5S rules? Slope, size, shape, sitting on the line. Yes, and also one more thing, spacing. Space, size, slope, size, and sitting on the line. With 5S. Yes. So this one that you are going to ask the child to draw in a box, that you ask your child to draw a letter or draw a shape, and then you draw a box for a child and ask the child, can you draw it a little smaller so that it fits inside it? And then the child's first attempt is this. He tries to fit drawing letter A inside the given box, but unfortunately unsuccessful. Then for attempt number 2, he received your input and feedback, and based on your feedback, he tried his best and then fit the letter A inside the box. You say, wow, great. And you keep doing level 2 for several times so that the child learns how to fit the letter inside, and then you make the box a little smaller, and you have the child write it and fit it again in a smaller box. You gradually make the box smaller and smaller, and then even you can stack few boxes and you ask few letters inside each box so that the whole word is going to be written in this. So in activity number 13 that I allotted separate slide for that, which is about writing in a box. It is writing a word in the box, which the child is supposed to pay attention not only about the fitting of the whole word inside the box, but also paying attention to the gap and space between the letters as well. And then writing all letters of this word with the similar size, paying attention to the slope, to the spacing, and fitting them inside the box. Again, number 1 attempt is unsuccessful, and you immediately show the child this area. You can even ask your child, okay, I can say that there is some problem with this number 1. Can you find the problem? If your child find the problem, don't mention it to him. Just ask your child to find his own problem. Find the problem in their handwriting. And then you give second chance, okay, smaller box, smaller box, smaller box. And then gradually making it the size as small as normal for the age of your child. And then you can make sure that you have practiced enough on the handwriting technique like that. So next thing is about novelty as a motivation. And it is very, very important. I could spend 15 minutes of the workshop over that slide because they are very, very important how to motivate your child when Some boring activity like handwriting needs several repetitions. So the nature of working on handwriting needs repetition because handwriting of fine motor control is a pattern of motor learning. It needs a great configuration between lots of skills like eye-hand coordination, crossing the midline of body, subcorticalized attention about the posture, position of the space, visual and spatial perception, ocular motor control, and many, many other things. These amount of motor learning aspects together needs several repetition. But most of the time, repetition are very boring. And most of the time, children appraise if the given task is fun or boring. If the given task is fun, why should they obey it? Because actually, you as a caregiver are the one who is aware about future, but the child only is aware about the current mode, about the present time. The present time, the child is having fun, and the child doesn't find any necessity to practice some skill for the future, specifically for some skills like handwriting that we ourselves even doubt whether it is needed in 20 years or not. It's the kind of paradigm that I earlier mentioned it earlier in the past workshop, that given the fact that AI is surrounding us, ChatGPT and lots of other devices or instruments, speech to text, or many of other assistive devices that normally being used by population. Just imagine that in 20 years or 15 years from now, if your child ever needs handwriting, or the child needs paying attention to creativity, thinking outside the box, multitasking, accepting the criticism, openness to the criticism, being able to run a project, leadership skills. Yeah, so even if you have to do that boring task that needs lots of repetition, do it each time with a new texture. Like give a call to the child, ask the child to write with a call, with a bent matchstick, with a crayon, pastel, watercolor, with a finger painting thing. Drawing on a surface, humid surface like that. Drawing on the sand, on the glass, on the paper, on the wall, with the soap, with the foam, in a new room, on a new sheet, with a new size. So the other thing that you can add up to the repertoire of the novelty and motivation. Let's write the biggest ever letter A for today, and then give the child a big whiteboard and say, okay, write it like that big letter A, like that. And then you give a very, very tiny piece of paper and say, so now you are going to write the smallest ever letter A. And then make fun with that and then enjoy the moment. And lastly, it's the one that I am seeking your attention toward, which is about say and write. For example, the car, just imagine there is a car here. The car goes up to the peak. It stops here and rolls down to the ground. Oh, there is a helicopter that crosses the mountain and crosses the mountain. We drew some letter A. So the way we are talking and making writing meaningful and asking the child to pay attention to the details of that letter A, this crossing line, up, peak, down, And then by saying and doing it, we are helping our children to internalize the motor learning pattern and movements related to holding the pencil in hand and managing it upward and downward, facilitating the visual memory for your child. And it's a great task or activity that every child might enjoy, specifically if the child per se is not able to pay attention to all details of a written word or letter. So these 15 techniques or tips are provided in order to help you have more fun moments of handwriting and give you a few ideas about how to perform it at home. But right now, please do not hesitate to ask any question if you have at the end of the session. Right now that it's 8:30 at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the recording. Stop.